Hi, everybody, and welcome to The Experience. And it's been a while since I've done a show, but here it is today, and we're working with the famous Sharita Starr, who is our astrological genius and expert to help us usher in this new fall season with autumn awareness. So, Sharita, welcome back.
Hi, how are you? And
I'm
thank you so much.
fantastic.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me back. It's always a pleasure to talk planetary star shock with you and your audience. How was your summer of surrender?
There was a lot of surrendering going on.
Yeah, it was an intense one, huh? We're still recuperating from that. Like we're still under. We've got just about a week or so left of a shadow of one of the planets, which was Mars. That was the one that really was kicking our butts to gotta bow down, people, bow down.
That was my first conscious awareness of Mars retrograde, and it was kicking my butt coming into Mars retrograde, and it kicked my butt all up, down, sideways throughout the summer. And yeah, I think you guys could probably all agree that it is it's lingering.
Yes, the shadow, well, it turned around on August 27th. So, Mars, just to kind of recap for anybody who may not know what we're talking about, in looking at the whole theme of 2018 being a year of feeling the feminine, it's a reflective year. It's very lunar based this year in understanding what we're doing with our feelings, our emotions, getting really deep soul work in that department, and just looking at what's happening with like things like the Me Too movement, Believe Women, all of these things happening. That is no mistake.
Politics, yeah, right.
Yeah, and how it's really entering, a whole another spectrum of, that's where this energy is really coming, being seen by the mass consciousness as well. It's no mistake. All of that is in our space right now to be filtering and getting into. But from the planet's perspective, they didn't give us a break this year on asking us to reflect because we had a lot. We always have Mercury retrogrades to contend with, which we'll get about 3 to 4 of those in any given year's time. But this past year, we have 2 interplanet retrogrades, one which smacked us upside the head in the summertime, and that was due to Mars retrograde. And that was what spanned from June 26th through August 27th, with the approach beginning back around Mother's Day and in May, and then the shadow period of this Mars retrograde is just about to end. It'll end in early October. So it's taking a little while to kind of, and always like the approach to any retrograde, which of course will happen under Mercury, Venus, or Mars, or any of them. But the interplanet ones are the ones that we always want to pay the closest attention to, because their energy is very uprooting here upon the Earth. Outer planet retrogrades still have an effect on things, but it's very, I want to say, more subtle. It's not going to create the kind of chaotic and rerouting things that we directly see so physically here when interplanet retrogrades are in effect. So when we're looking at the approach or looking at the shadow, we're looking at what's coming under the approach, what we're going to need to address under the retrograde itself, and then the shadow periods are what happens after the retrograde to kind of iron out all the kinks. And most retrogrades will tell you, don't do this and don't do that under the cycle to the best of your ability. And sometimes you're just kind of, I don't want to say forced, but life has to happen under retrograde, no doubt. So sometimes we are placed in positions where, oh my God, we had to make a really important decision that may not have been the best one to have to make under that retrograde, but we get to fix it later. Right. So, but whatever we can really deliberately do, we want to try to the best of our ability, avoid important things under, every retrograde. And depending on the planet that is retrograding, making decisions in, pertaining to the things that planet is in charge of. So we're going to be talking all about what our autumn awareness is going to ask us to be a little heads up to, you know.
What does it all mean? So we're coming up on a new retrograde. We're coming up on a Venus retrograde, right? And
yes.
Have we started yet? Let me see. You wrote it down.
No, the approach has been on since the 3rd of September.
That's Friday.
And then next Friday on October 5th, she begins her reflective journey. And she's going to take 6 weeks to do that.
Wow. So tell us about her approaching. So Venus retrograde, and she started the 15th of September, as you just
said. The 3rd of September.
The 3rd of September, and then so the approach is what? What's that? What is that?
The approach is and it's all really, you know, when we say as an astrologer the approach or the shadow, it's just looking at the math in what the astrology is up to. Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen is Venus on the 5th of October is going to start retrograde at 10 degrees of Scorpio,
mm-hmm. Which is,
and then all the way through November 16th, she's going to backtrack to 25 degrees Libra. Mm-hmm. So she's going to go back. She's going to work with two signs. Mm-hmm. One sign that deals with power, and the other sign that deals with alignment. So we're going to be looking at redefining the value of our power and abilities to align our lives. It's kind of like the finale retrograde of 2018. Although we will have one more when she's done, but we'll get into that. So what happens under the approach is that what happened on September 3rd is Venus crossed over that 25 degrees Libra point. So this whole retrograde mathematical degree separation started. So she crossed over that 25 degrees Libra moving forward. So she's tootling along. She's starting to slow down, especially now and moving into next week until next Friday. And then she's going to stay, what we call station. She's going to really take it slow for a couple of days, just lingering around that 10-degree Venus, 10 degrees of Scorpio. And then she's going to start lifting off, moving backwards. And then by November 16th, she will be back at 25 degrees Libra again. And then she's going to turn around. And then Mercury goes retrograde that day as well. So she goes direct and Mercury goes retrograde on the same day, on November 16th. Very interesting. And then her shadow will continue. Like I said, this year did not want to spare us. You know, the numerology had said from the get-go, 2018 was a very reflective year overall. It was a year of this theme, this mantra of feeling the feminine, and again, that has been out in full force, like beyond I think anybody's expectations.
I think men and women have been feeling it, and we can talk about that. But yeah, go ahead. Absolutely,
and yes, this is not just about like, oh wow, you're a woman and you're supposed to be more empowered. This is men understanding that too. It's an excellent because men are so conditioned to push it away and push that nourishing energy that they do deserve and they need, you know. So we're all coming into a different sense of balance with ourselves. And that's why the work has been tough, because most people try to avoid this.
Right. And sort of strong arm it. It's like when the divine feminine is coming up, and I look at it from a more energetic healer point of view, only because, you know, the mathematics of it are like, woo-hoo. So all of you who feel that way, like, you're not alone. But the masculine aspect has been so dominant in our human culture for so long that everybody is used to sort of strong arming that need for rest and nourishment and taking care of yourself and going more internal. And it's just not working the way that it used to.
No. Yeah. No, it's like the truth is coming out about this imbalance. I mean, we've been, like, I think humanity at large has been, you know, there's obviously so much going on between technology and the advancements we have, and life is moving so quickly, right? I mean, we are moving faster than we've ever had to move in our entire life, and just how these things work. And, you know, you can even go back to what was going on in 2012 when the, you know, December 21st date came along. And of course the world was quote unquote supposed to end, which was just a total misunderstanding of what that actually meant. You know, that whole realignment was about, you know, the Mayans totally understood that we would have had, we as humanity by this point in history, we're going to speed everything up so intensely so that we were going to need to have a correction and a slowdown period. And I don't really see that happening, you know, where like, okay, the technology is disappearing, but, or changing, but I think it's our relationship, especially to what we do with technology, how we're teaching our children about their relationship to technology, and finding that balance. So this year was so critical for that as well, is how are you really nourishing yourself, you know, amongst being that busy bee person all the time? You know, that's important. And this year really wanted us to all take a good look at that, and however it really works for us. So, yeah, it's a lot of work that I think people have been avoiding for a long time, which is why it's heavy. I mean, even like, you know, you look at these current events that have just even transpired in over the last few months here, and all these stories coming out that are, they're taking us back 30 years ago to when things happened, you know, that were never addressed. Nobody was held accountable for back at the time. So it's nice, as painful as some of these things are for people to be, you know, working through again, but it's healing in the same right.
There's a new response. I mean, you know, I don't want to name names, but I think about that. I think about being in our 80s and being at a catastrophic break in the paradigm where you're so out of alignment and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to jail. You know, or like I think of politicians that are shady. It's like, do you really in the final assessment want to like have so much going on that you could potentially as an old person go to jail? I mean, that's a total sidebar, but like maybe consider it an invitation to recalibrate into the divine feminine, to learn about that inner wise one that helps guide us and allows us to be safe and well balanced and make good decisions coming from our inner guidance and not having that external motivation for action, like not needing the approval of others outside ourselves to create the life that we want to live.
I know. And that was for me, and I'm still finding the time to write the blog about it, because I didn't want to write it in the moment of doing the experiment. I did a lot of my own journaling and stuff, but one of the things I did this past summer, because of the way the retrograde cycles, because we had the Mars retrograde, but my cat is playing with a toy right now, and he's like scurrying under my table. So if I'm shaking, that's the cat.
If you're like jerking around,
he's going crazy. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I agree with you. I'm scurrying around. But one of the things I did, because the way that both the Mars retrograde and the Mercury retrogrades were working for my personal chart, because I do try to take my own advice from time to time, is that I took a hiatus off of social media. So I just decided to put it down. And if you were on my Star Tribe list, that worked all summer. My mailing list kept going, had all my stuff set up. But I took a break for like about a month and a half, and I didn't log on. I didn't post anything. I had my Twitter pre-programmed, and that's what I did. And I stepped away from all that needing of approval, because I think that's what social media has done for children, adults, teenagers, whatever. There's this constant need now that people have to, if you don't feel liked on social media, you feel, I mean, what are you there for if nobody's paying attention?
Less than. Yeah, I think there is that reevaluation. We also forget how to spend time outside of that realm.
Yes, exactly. And I didn't realize, how much I hadn't, broken up. I broke up with this fine object as well over the summer because it was better. And I picked up a real camera to take pictures, and it was refreshing. But this little device here, these quote unquote smartphones, I don't know how smart they really are. I know we need them. I know we need them, but our relationship to this it has to be defined differently, I think, in the future for all of us to work differently. Before technology just takes us away where we don't want to be anymore. We don't want to be there. Maybe I'm just in the age bracket where that's going to be the thing, because I don't know how the youth are going to. I don't know if anybody out there who's like under the age of 20 is going to agree with what I just said.
Well, speaking of celestial events, you never know. Our technology is so interconnected with the electrical grid of the planet, and our electrical grid is so anchored into the planet itself. And if there's like some sort of solar event people talk about, or even just a massive solar flare, it has the power to throw us back into the Stone Ages. And, honestly, I don't think it would be a horrible thing. It would just be a complete recalibration, and life would definitely be more challenging for sure. But I think that ultimately we have the ability to enjoy ourselves in new ways or old ways. I live in North Carolina, and we were here. I was actually in New York and then drove down during Hurricane Flo.
Yeah.
And my family had been without power for a good 16 hours. And we live out in the sticks anyway, so it's normal for us during storms to lose power every now and again. But 16 hours is like going on a full day. And luckily we were prepared. But my kids are absolutely into screen time, and we're parenting in a way that's like, you guys, when they have a great moment away from the screens, we're like, just remember that this is a thing, and just keep reiterating back to that, and like really want to encourage them to just follow their inner guidance. Sometimes it's like this, but
I do understand exactly what you're talking about. Yes,
but let me just share this, that when we had that power outage, they had so much fun. It's just they had to basically be like, okay, mirror up, guess what? This is you having fun without electronics. Just put that in your subconscious and pack it away there. Just know that actually happens and you had fun. And the elation is a level of fun that's totally different than the level of elation that they have on the electronic. It's more of a visceral, bodily, embodied experience. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, not at all. I am around children as well, and I do see how, it's not, of course they're teaching them everything on computers now in school. So it's like, yes, they obviously need to have this information and know how to do things in their life, because there's nowhere you go anymore for a job that you're not utilizing a computer.
Right, it's a tool.
No, let's face it.
You gotta know how to do it. Yeah.
You need that skill set. So, it's like, all these devices, and it's fascinating to me. Just how you're, it's a bit of to me, it's an addiction. Because I realized myself when I first went off this in the summer, how much I habitually was just going to that phone and I'm not doing that. And it really changed my whole vibe. Like, I was like, how I didn't realize how conditioned I had gotten about using that phone for like and so children today, they're really, they don't understand like how you and I have lived our lives without any of this stuff at some point. So it's different for them, and I understand that that's what starts to separate generations into generations, is that my grandparents don't even understand, why I had a computer.
Right. Like,
so, that's just natural human evolution, but, it's still our relationship to it, to me, is how are we going to stay grounded and present as individuals? Because if I go out to one more restaurant and watch a family all sitting on their own devices, I'm just like, I just don't like to see that. But that's personally for me. I'm like, what is that? Like, that is weird. It's weird to me. Maybe that's just weird.
Well, and also I think we're at an age where, an age meaning the collective consciousness of humanity is really at a point where we're learning that like how to utilize our emotions as our guidance system, like utilizing it to give us information at the same time that we're also in conjunction with methodologies that are there to kind of tamp down our emotional awareness. So, like utilizing, I don't want to like, so, things that are prescribed that affect our psychological state in a way that numbs us or prevents us from knowing. And numbing can happen on a number of levels.
Sure.
My son got in trouble. He thought he was getting in trouble the other day. I caught him in a bit of a fib.
Yeah.
Daddy said one thing, and then he went and told mommy something totally different. I was like, did daddy say that? And I just called up, did you say that? And he's like, no. And his face, he was just like, and I'm like, what? And he thought I was going to lash into him. And I just go, what are you feeling right now? What is that expression telling you right now?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And he was still so attached to not getting busted that he couldn't admit. And I'm like, well, whatever that feeling is, just feel it and know that that's there. I just want you to be more in touch with your feelings. And you're not in trouble, but you also aren't going to get what you're trying to get, because that was a total, what do you call it? That was a total wash. So I yelled upstairs to him, and I was like, could that emotion that you were feeling be fear? And he's like, yep.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the affirmation.
Note that. Ping. Yeah. I'm just hoping over time by the time they're adults, they'll have some sense of what's going on internally.
Yes, that's going to be the challenge, I think, for this generation. But we have to envision what's going to be the best, and hopefully that will come forth. Because as you and I both know, and I know we've studied extensively. What you think about, you bring about. So whatever we're thinking and feeling is going to be, we have contrast show up for us, but we want to stay with the good feelings. So,
Yeah.
It's a great question to ask a child in those kind of moments too, when they really expect, like, well, what are you feeling?
Yeah. Yeah. What is that feeling? You really have you're seeing so many things on your face right now. What is?
Yeah.
So how are we going to feel as we go into Venus retrograde? How are we feeling now about that?
Well, and I think a good place to start to answer that question, which is a very good one, is what's the difference between how a Mercury retrograde works and how a Venus retrograde works? And I know a lot of people are very familiar with Mercury, because that's the most frequent one. We never get out of that.
Like, Mercury retrograde again?
Yeah, it's just like, it's the same thing every time it comes back up again, which is always every 3 to 4 months. It's back again. And Mercury is the planet of communication, movement, electricity, how everything is being just transmuted on this planet, the channeling of anything. So it's information, which is why, like, when it's Mercury retrograde, your internet doesn't work right, your cell doesn't work as optimally as it normally does, or you need to reset it a whole bunch of times. Same thing with computers. Whatever's in need of repair will just go on the fritz, including cars, because it's all transportation oriented. Your plane is delayed, whatever, trains, planes, automobiles, all that stuff is under the Mercury umbrella.
Double book clients.
Exactly. And always this constant need to reroute and change your schedule, people canceling on you, moving the appointment till next week, or just whatever, I'll get back to you. So all of those things are going on. And Mercury, of course, being the planet of communication and thinking, it's also involved, we speak a little off base. There's a lot of errors. Emails aren't correct. We have typos all over the place. You watch it in the media. I mean, it's a complete, like, it's almost like hilarious to watch it. So when Mercury's doing that, we want to be careful of all that stuff. Mercury retrograde is not a favorite time to start something for, long-term success, all of those things.
Don't lose escrow on your house. Don't get married, right?
Exactly.
Don't propose.
I wouldn't. I mean, some people have. I mean, I don't know how successful it turned out, but with any of these retrogrades, also really, anytime anyone wants to show up, is it really says, whatever planet I am, and whatever area and whatever sign I'm in, I want you to go back to this area of the life and go back to what already exists. Go back to what you've planted already. Go back to things unfinished. Go back to what's not done yet. Mm-hmm. And do a little cleaning house. Do that reflection work. So on and so forth.
For Mercury. Or is this Venus?
This is for any of that. So like over the summer, Mars retrograde wanted us to go back to Mars in Aquarius, early Aquarius, and that latter part of Capricorn, which is where it went back and forth through.
Did you guys have that in your relationships? Holy smokes.
I did.
Relationship. Oh my gosh.
I had it you had it in your home and family life.
Yes.
And your career. You had the dueling retrogrades, because over the summer, Mars was retrograde in Aquarius for the majority of the time, and Mercury, when it joined in a month after Mars had been traipsing backwards, was in the opposite sign of Leo. So we had a pull, and then we had all those eclipses kick off, and oh my God, it was just like the summer. That's why it was a summer of surrender. So this autumn of awareness with Venus starting it off, at least we have no eclipses, but some of our full moons are going to be pretty intense. So that's going to be.
This last one was a real.
Yeah, it was in Aries, this last full moon that kicked off this week on the 24th of September. So it was in Aries, and the mathematics on this full moon as well connected back to that very intense eclipse we had on the 27th of July, which was a lunar eclipse that conjunct that Mars retrograde. So a lot of this work that was being done from the summertime, this clearing out, and still under the shadow of the Mars retrograde, this particular full moon a few days ago was kind of asking us to kind of take a look at how the progress that we've made. Kind of take a look at your progress of the reflection.
I can agree.
And give yourself maybe a little pat on the back that something has changed,
Yes,
and it may have taken a lot longer than you thought.
And a little bit more like putting on the big girl panties.
Yeah. And of course, a full moon in Aries. Aries is a very, it's a go-getter sign. It's a pioneering fire sign. Gotta be head first. Aries energy is not very contained. It's not grounded very much. It's excited. It's inspiring. So, it really wanted us to kind of kick into this, like,
Wow.
So, yeah, that full moon on Monday, this past Monday, was the 24th of September. For any of you who are on my mailing list or follow me, but if you go to sharitastarr.com, check in on the under journal or under or blog, I think it says. Can't remember how I have it. It's either blog or journal. But then on my any inner page of my site, you'll just see all my little go-to pages, and check out the lunarscopes, because that will tell you what's your area of life that you really want to focus on letting some things go from that full moon. But as Venus kicks in, now the difference between her retrograde and something like a Mercury is that she's going to say, well, I'm not going to like maybe mess with your communications so much, or your electricity and your movement, but I want you to focus on your relationships. I want you to focus on.
You didn't get enough of that in Mars.
As if Mars didn't do that. Well, because Mars made us like unveil all the anger we had. Mars is such an aggressive planet. So if you were a little more angrier over there, or testy, or irritable over the summer, there was a reason for that was not, it was a lot to deal with, you know.
Were your clients like going, I think I'm losing my mind? That's what I got a lot of that.
I had so many people. And of course, I was away over the summer, and I was overseas, so I wasn't even in. But I mean, I had the means to check in and see what was cooking.
Like,
so many people emailing me, going, Sharita, I can't believe this. Like, delays, this, that, limitations, everything's messed up. I mean, like everybody. I had so many people telling me, I didn't believe you, really. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Sharita, but now I know. So the Venus is really going to show up in our relationships, and I'm curious to see how that's going to play out.
What she wants you to do, again, she's about value overall across the board. So it's the value of anything. So like, I always theme everything. So we're in autumn awareness because we've got 2 back-to-back retrogrades that are going to be happening.
And that's
spanning
awesome.
us through early October through early December, and that's including what'll happen with Mercury, like kind of piggybacking off of what she's going to be doing for 6 weeks. So when we're looking at someone like Venus, with these, it's not just relationships, but it's the value. So the theme of this upcoming Venus retrograde is redefining the value of power and alignment in our life, because of the 2 signs it's going to be happening in. So what I've told, what I've been preparing people for is, you got to have that personal forecast under your belt, because I had so many people tell me who had a session with me prior to the summer starting. They were like, at least I had the information. It wasn't an easy time, but at least I understood why this was going on. And because if I didn't know, I would have probably went insane. So knowing where that Scorpio, early Scorpio, moving back into the latter Libra area of your life is in your chart is how you're going to work, ideally, with redefining where this power sits in your life and what needs to be realigned as well. When it comes to, what needs to be balanced back out again. And it's going to take what relationships exist in that area of your life, how you feel secure in that area of your life. And there's all these general do's and don'ts, just like a Mercury retrograde has. So Venus will say, don't buy luxurious things. Like, don't make big purchases, because you're going to get undercut on the value. So basically, you're going to spend too much money on something and it's not worth what you just paid for it, kind of.
Interesting.
Well, scoop up bargains, though. So find sales. Like, it's a great time to scoop up something that dropped in value and get it while you can, sort of thing. And, utilize your discretion. It's not a very good time. You're going to notice that the markets and the banking and all that lovely stuff is going to fluctuate a little bit. It'll go through what we call a correction period. I know it's been kind of like tootling along for a while, but there's going to be some up and down. You're going to see like things go foop and down and foop and down. And so that's going to be interesting to watch.
So are finances specifically a part of the Venus thing, or is
it?
Okay.
Yes. So your money across the board. So basically, like, if you're a person who's, heavy in the stock market, don't move your money around during Venus retrograde to think you're going to be making all these bucks. because you're probably going to be making the wrong moves.
So
like let's say if a stock value drops super, super strong, if something like a stock totally drops, if it's something that maybe you've done your homework on and you kind of know, again, you know, I'm not a financial advisor. Talk to your financial advisor, but they're going to not see.
I'm just saying.
They're not going to. It's funny because financial advisors will tell you what I'm telling you, but they're going to tell you in their own language.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we know things are going to be like, you know, going through this like correction period in October and November. They already see that.
But Sharita, we know our audience is going to hear it in our language, and so we're speaking their language like people. You have stock, you know, stock going on. Listen to Sharita; she's speaking our language, though.
Yeah. So you know, if something drops, and like I say, you kind of do your homework. Scoop it up if that's something that makes sense to you. But don't think there's going to be some fast turnaround with it, you know, that kind of thing. It's not a time to make money quickly. You're not going to make fast money in October and November. You want to watch beauty enhancements under Venus retrograde because that's what she governs. She loves all things pretty and pretty and you know, it's very tasteful, but you don't want to be redoing your house under, you know, a Venus retrograde because the colors that are not going to come out or the parts aren't right. The whole thing is just, what you want to do, just like a Mercury retrograde, do your research. So if you have the idea you want to do like a renovation, do all your homework on it.
Right.
But don't engage in the project.
This is really good. Right.
Don't go to your hairdresser and say, wow, I want to have like I want to go from red to platinum blonde. I mean, you'll hate it. Plastic surgery, not that I don't know anybody that does that because I'm not that good friends with celebrities, but you know, like you see these people get, you see these celebrities get, I think they get like total botch jobs sometimes. I think they must all do these things under Venus retrograde because it's also not going to go well.
So you sociologists and anthropologists, that is a really good thesis project to work on. That's a very fascinating thing. I mean, you see people, I mean, I don't want to name names, but it's like, that's it. I mean, pretty much they are going to be changed forever and they're going to look very, very different.
I mean, some people they don't even look recognizable when they've had that done. I'm like, I don't know.
It's weird to like go and look in the mirror and you're like, I did this to myself on purpose.
Exactly.
Somebody thousands of dollars
to do this. So, you know, and if you're like, let's say you're a home designer, well, you know, I would work on any project you've already got in motion, but I wouldn't like engage in new ones. You know, I would be like, let me get back to you if that's possible to do, but kind of put off signing agreements. You don't want to be signing big legal agreements under a Venus retrograde. You want to be clearing up stuff that's lingering, that's already existed. Same thing with relationships. You're going to want to not start a new relationship under Venus retrograde, nor do you want to get married under Venus retrograde.
Now, let me ask you
any of those things.
So just thinking about, okay, say somebody is changing their hair color. Is it that the idea that inspires them under a retrograde is kind of cockamamie and that they have to, that's what's coming, their inspiration is off?
It's off base.
So once the retrograde's over, they're going to be like, that's not an idea I wanted, but if they had taken action, then they're going to be like, that was not at all.
Like, it always turns out that it's not really what they want. Or if they make a drastic cut difference or something like that, sometimes they're just not happy. Or if they want to work with a new hairstylist, I would be like, oh, no.
Yeah, just wait.
You know, I would tell any hairstylist, do not take on new clients under retrograde because they probably, it's not like even their fault. It's just like the energy is just offset. And naturally, they're not really going to like you.
And so what's so funny,
I mean, it's not a total guarantee, but most of the time that's what works.
I'm sure all of us can think of times where we probably must have been under Venus retrograde when we went to the hair salon. We came out, we're like, Oh my
What did I just do to myself? Yeah, I volunteered for this. Yeah. So we want to be very careful about those types of things. Again, it's always just go back to what exists. So, it's nice if you have to get your hair cut or trimmed, whatever, get your color done under, this cycle coming up, but make sure you're just keeping things as normal as you always have, and try the shadow period, which of course is going to be under Mercury retrograde. So be careful with that. But that's more of the autumn awareness we've got to work with, because the shadow period of this Venus retrograde is going to be all during Mercury retrograde. So it'll be, it's going to be a mixed bag, leading into early December, of just how much forward motion can we have before we finish off this reflective year. Not much.
That kind of makes sense too. I mean, I don't, in a lot of, even my work, does your work slow down around the holidays, or does it pick up?
It depends. Some years have been different than others. I tend to do more parties, like house parties, Christmas parties, because for what I do, everybody wants to know what's going to be happening in 2019.
Sure.
So forecasting picks up a lot, and people want to know how's the new year going to open up for them, and that kind of thing. But really for me, with people, my regular clients and returning clients, most of them get their forecasting done on their birthday every year, because that's their new year.
Right.
Right. But new people filtering in, a lot of people do want to hop on that new year energy, the universal new year energy, which of course it's always important to understand what's going on. I do forecasting with people on like either monthly or yearly basis, or sometimes they check in with me like every 3 to 6 months, quarterly kind of thing. So it depends on how how much you want to know, and how often you want to know it.
Do people hire you on retainer? Because that seems like a good idea.
Yes, that's a good package to align yourself in.
Yeah. I think, think about Nancy Reagan, come on, you guys,
she was brilliant. Yes. And it's funny because there's a great book that her astrologer, Joan Quimbley, wrote, What Would Joan Say? And of course, she had been sworn to secrecy. She would never reveal that the Reagans used an astrologer under his administration.
Yeah. Oh, the Reagans, plural. Oh, Ronnie did too?
Well, no, Nancy was running that whole show.
Oh, was she? Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Nancy, kind of always, he wouldn't obviously admit that, but this woman, Joan, this astrologer, Joan Quimbley, she talked to both of them all the time. So anytime he did anything, Nancy was very observant of, and I know if you follow me on all the social media, I'm always talking about moon void, of course. So she would never let Ronald make any initiation under a moon void, of course, because she knew how it's like a mini Mercury retrograde. And this happens all throughout a work week, depending, or sometimes it's when we're sleeping. It depends. But it's an aspect that the moon makes every couple of days that it advises us to just chill out like we would under a Mercury retrograde or any interplanet retrograde. Just watch what we do. Don't go over the top with your initiations. Nancy was very, and apparently, Joan also, because nobody really liked Nancy in the beginning of the whole deal with Ronald in office. So she helped her change her image around, and just how people started to perceive and receive her. And then she became a very, well-respected first lady. But that really was because you read the book, it's because of astrology.
Wow, that's so good.
So I could only wish it could help anyone in office now, if these politicians would observe astrology, but they probably wouldn't understand the kind of power they can really have.
You metaphysically oriented movers and shakers, really, Sharita is your... Retain her services forevermore, and you will not be upset about your decisions moving forward.
Yeah. So,
what I hear over and over again is really nature has a way of instilling these moments of relaxing and chilling out and reflecting. And
That's how astrology is. That's
yeah.
And when you really grasp how to honor retrograde cycles, moon void of course cycles, any of these inner planet retrogrades, that's what it's for, because we are meant to it's like sleeping, we need to sleep every day, hopefully, in order to wake up again and have, a new experience every day of our life. And if we don't take the time, if you have to think about it, if you didn't sleep, what would happen to you? Well, these retrogrades are very much like they could compare it to like a sleep cycle. It doesn't mean when they're in effect, because obviously in the compasses, we're looking at a couple of months here as we're talking today. But, we want to be mindful. So it's asking us just to be more aware and more mindful of this, whatever it is that we're trying to do with our life. And sometimes we're meant to have that car in neutral, tap our brakes, and kind of just glide down the highway a little bit. And there's other times in our life when you're so favored, you better have your foot on the gas or you're going to miss the opportunity. So that's what the astrology distinctly shows us, is how to move with the flow of life rather than against it.
That's
and it really is this lovely, it's a delicious language, I like, because you always talk about that word delicious.
I love
it. It's a delicious language when you get into understanding how timing really is everything.
And we are at a time where I think that is just coming up more and more, and why not pay attention to that? And I am also very happy to have you translate it for me, because it's just so
whoever came up with the language of astrology didn't make it simple. No, I mean the language is beyond. I try. I mean, I know I still talk about the retrogrades and the signs, but at least we all know what our sign is. Most people know their sun sign.
Yeah.
So for all you Scorpios out there, and I want to say the first 10 days of Scorpio, which is really the tail end of October, moving into that first week of November. If you're born as a Scorpio under that time frame, you're the people who are going to get this Venus retrograde right over your sun in your chart, somehow, some way. And the same for the latter, the last like 4 or 5 days of Libra are going to get the same. Okay. Because that Venus retrograde is going to come over your sun. So that's just if you're born in that, if you're born like mid-October through the first part of November, you're going to get a very direct hit, as we say, off of this retrograde period. If you're a Taurus, it's going to oppose you at that same time. So if
I'm a Taurus.
If you're a late Aries or you're an early Taurus, you're going to get the opposition. It's going to be opposing you.
So before, in the few minutes that we have left, what is that like for a person who is a Scorpio first? What is that like for them?
They're very passionate people. They love mystery in life. They are the sign that's associated with power the most. And not to say all the other signs don't have everybody has personal power, right? But Scorpio is the sign that sees the entire scope of everything.
Wow.
That's their symbol. They're the eagle. Or the scorpion. It goes either way, but I love the eagle better because the eagle soars above everything and has that eye.
Oh, wow.
But the scorpion is a very, and not to take away the scorpion symbol, the scorpion is resilient. And it understands how to go through cycles of death and rebirth all the time. So most Scorpios are no strangers to either having a significant person die in their life from a very early age, or, they just see very strong cycles of death and rebirth throughout their life. And they're equipped to deal with it. And not to say it doesn't take away the human grieving and that pain you go through, but their way of understanding it is so much easier for them than a sign who can't let go of the grief kind of thing.
What's a sign that doesn't tend to let go of the grief? Just curious.
Pisces,
that
Cancers.
That makes sense.
Yeah. they hold on to it more. Yeah, but a Scorpio, for some reason, knows how to really, and of course, Scorpio is all about, power on the planet, the resources we use, the large scale resources, that big, again, that big scope of life picture. It's also about wealth, which is also why the majority of this one is going to really spin out this understanding on this planet of power, what people think wealth is. So it's all going to get redefined.
Oh, wow.
And because wealth is not necessarily the amount of money you have in your bank account. It is about how the picture of your whole life works.
Right.
And how do you feel from your core about that?
Yeah. What are you appreciating? What is there that you're actually genuine?
And again, a Venus retrograde too as well. Giving gratitude is going to help throughout those 6 weeks. And being charitable is also a great thing. Like going back to like the money and the values and stuff. That's another thing. Donating to charity, if you have that ability to do that, very well supported under a Venus retrograde. And boy, your karmic rewards will come back tenfold.
That's pretty cool.
Later on, because of that, putting that good energy, that green, we say green energy out into the universe, into the pot of the universe, let it go spin around a little bit. So Scorpio, and then you're looking, when the Venus will be backtracking in Libra, you're looking at the sign of justice, you're looking at the sign of balance, and also the sign that guides relationships as well. So the tail end of the Venus retrograde, and I forget the exact date when it crosses back into, it's on I have the link.
November 16th.
That's when it ends. It will cross, let me just look. When it goes back, it's early November at some point. I don't know why that date is not sticking out to my head right at the moment. But Venus goes back into Libra on the 4th of November.
Okay.
So from the 5th of October to the 4th of November is all in the Scorpio, that first 10 degrees of Scorpio, and then Libra is the 4th through the 16th. So that, November timeframe is really about looking at what's just in life. Is this fair? Where do I need more understanding? Where do I need to seek to understand and then be understood? That's going to help under this Venus retrograde, especially in November. But what will be also fascinating to see is as all the campaigning and all this stuff is all happening under the debates, these things you're going to see all happening under this time frame. So it'll be very interesting to see how things will turn.
Yeah.
Especially in America, being we're sitting here. And this whole Venus retrograde for the country is happening in the country's future goals, hopes and wishes, how we're friends with other countries kind of thing. So that's all going to be cropping up. And just at the close of October, or actually just at that beginning of November timeframe, it'll go back into how the United States is recognized for being who it is. So there'll be some interesting corrections going on until that 16th. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on election day this year.
Will you come back and have some sort of astrological political conversation with me? I think that would be really interesting.
We can do that.
That would be interesting.
I have most people's charts. We just talked, I was with my other colleague, Louis Mabey, last night on Facebook, and we did the lexicograms alone on Bill Cosby's full name, Brett Kavanaugh, Christine Baisley Ford, even the hashtags of Believe Women and Believe Survivors. Oh my God.
I got to hear that. You have to share that with us.
Really revealing on spelling out the truth. Wow. I was stunned. As always, those lexicograms just keep surprising me.
What was the Ford one? I'm curious.
Okay, hold on. I have it here in case I didn't know if we would get into this, but here we are. Hang on.
Okay, and I want to use this as a time to plug Sharita's stuff, like sharitastar.com, and she also does a weekly show with, what's your guy's name?
I do, no, we don't, well, we're going to be that's one of my projects, upcoming projects, that we're going to be doing a podcast called Maybe It's in the Stars.
Maybe It's in the Stars. Okay, so
basically what we're going to be doing is, we're going to have it's like going to be like a half hour podcast once a week. That's just going to encapsulate current events and what's going on. But what we've been doing since like the springtime, we've been doing these Facebook Lives every couple of weeks or so. Took a little break over the summer naturally. But we did do one while I was overseas, which was hilarious because of the retrograde. So like the internet was just so not working right. It was comical at best.
And Lewis maybe is a psychic, right? He's a psychic, and
he's a psychic, spiritual guide. He's a medium as well.
Oh, he's a medium.
And yeah, he does some pretty rock solid. He puts a spark under your butt to get going in your life, and what is it that you really need to take action on. He's very good at.
We need to have him on the show.
He will get you to make a complete action plan. So that's another thing that we're also going to be offering soon, is called a Star Lu reading. So we're going to combine our forces, because how he sees everything is always backed up by what I see.
That's so cool.
So it's fun stuff. But onto these lexigrams. Yeah, so Christine, I hope I'm saying her name right, because I have not been so into it.
I don't know, because I really haven't
Baisley Ford. I'm going to say Baisley.
Okay.
Or Blastley Ford. I'm bad. I'm so bad on pronunciation sometimes. But her, and this is the woman who has stood up to say, Brett did this to me years ago.
Right.
So her name spells this. And what I do with the lexigrams, it's just, I've anagrammed her name, and I took all the anagrams and I phrased them like poetry or prose. So it's a little crazy.
Silent.
But it spells out the truth. So earlier on in the 80s, Brett tries a force hate on her.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Later on, she is seen in a force hate scenario by Brett earlier in the 80s. And yes, she is a force to rise to reset our beliefs.
Wow. Wow.
So, you know, all of these things are, I was like, wow.
So do Brett Kavanaugh,
he was this guy. It's so funny because we chose to talk about all of this last night, and funny that Brett Kavanaugh's birthday is the 12th of February, and Bill Cosby's birthday is the 12th of July. They're both 12s, which is an interesting that Bill went the comedic route, and of course Brett went the law route, which the 12 supports. But the 12 is very involved in understanding that if you're born to the 12th of any given month, you need to remain teachable in your lifetime. So if you get that attitude in your life that, I know it all and I don't need to learn anymore. I think both of these men had obviously gotten to this point that, I'm just going to hide the truth, and I'm just going to see how I can abuse my power. And that caught up with them, because now they're both being seen in some situation, because the 12 represents in the Chaldean numerology, it represents sacrifice, the victim. So, and only does that happen to the person is if they do not remain teachable. So they have to remain teachable throughout their life, which neither of these men did, which is why we're seeing them in these scenarios now. So from Brett's full name is Brett Michael Kavanaugh. Brett can attack, be a real, mean, traumatic, naughtier man.
Oh my gosh.
Brett be a real, able, ambivalent liar in an unethical hate crime. Brett get caught in a revealing, believe her, hate crime later.
Whoa.
So that happened, has happened. And I love these hashtags, because even like when we see words being used in a phrase, or, you know, it's not a person's name per se, there is also energy in that. It's like, what can we spell out from Believe Women? What can we spell out from Believe Survivors? Because everything is energetic, you know. Words, just simple words, are names, titles of things. So your business name, for example, has this ability as well. So I love in both of these hashtags that are very now moving, part of these movements. So Believe Women spells out, be woven in one mobile move. Bow now, noble men, in love.
Oh, chills.
And then Believe Survivors spells, be serious, observers. Love serves ourselves. See our visible resolve, live and rise over virus severe lives.
Whoa.
So both of these hashtags have the word love in them, which I was like, that's awesome.
That's totally awesome.
This is great, because love is what's going to solve these problems.
That's and that is really, I'm so glad you bring that up, because that's really the point of view that I want to shine light on most of all, is the drama playing out, the divisions going on. I just want the light and the love to be the ultimate point of view that we can share to everybody. And, you know, we're all just living our lives here, and we're making choices. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, and we are going to be coming back. You know, I have memories of past lives that were not necessarily so good that I've shared in the past too. So this is part of our experience. Like, I just love that we can have all of these areas to uplift people. You know, if Sharita's work resonates with you, you should check her out, and feel free to ask questions. She's going to be on the show in the future.
Absolutely.
So if you have questions, ask me on this YouTube channel, ask Sharita. Get involved with us. We want to connect with you. We have this desire to really expand community, and however it shows up for you, you know, feel free to show up for yourself and join with us. And if there's anything else before we close out, feel free to share.
You know, we could talk for days, but we don't have that time. But yeah, no, I mean, you know, just for, you know, moving forward throughout October, November, early December, just be mindful of things you're doing. If you want to tap into your, you know, chart and see what's going on, let me know. You know, SharitaStarr.com. My email is Sharita@SharitaStarr.com. Best way to get in touch with me is just reaching out with an email, and we can take everything from there. But also pop on the site too, and just get on my mailing list, because there's so much stuff I'm constantly, you know, I can't help but share, and it's all complimentary. So if you want to like just always stay in the lunar cycle loop and what's happening weekly, I do a weekly. It's a short little podcast called Empowerscopes on Empower Radio. So I've got that going every week. And just things I'm also doing, collaborating with other people. I know you and I are going to be coming up with something as well.
Absolutely. Always.
Probably we're popping that out there in the new year, but we're going to see what we can do together too. Because
talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
We're doing the research. We're going to just do the research. Yeah, and because it's amazing how anybody who is a healer or doing this kind of energetic understanding of life work, the astrology and the numerologies complements it in every way, and the lexicograms too, of course. So, you know, everything is just backing each other up, and it's like you get that crystal ball thing going on. So if you like taking deep dives, we can do that.
Well,
or we can keep it like, you know, just like here. If you don't want to go too far, we can keep it over here too.
you've got the ability to manage the levels, and you know, and everybody, you're at the level that you're at, and plus you have signs that will, you know, sometimes you'll be a Scorpio or sometimes you'll be a Gemini.
Well, you know, I love a skeptic. I love good skeptics too. You know, skeptics are great, you
If you're
know.
a skeptic, check it out.
Yeah. They're even more, you're more fun for me.
Oh, that's so good. I love it. I love it. I love you, and I appreciate your perspective, and it's just,
Love you too.
yeah, it's so refreshing, and we'll have you on again in the midst of the Venus retrograde, and we're going to talk about current events, and yeah, just stay tuned for the next time, and
Yeah. There's going to be a lot to talk about come November. I know that.
oh yeah. So all of you, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, I'm Nora Yolis Young. Please feel free to ask any questions or make comments. I love to hear from you all. And if you have ideas about shows, feel free to shout that out as well. And do you have any other things that you'd like to share before we sign off?
Well, that's it. Thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure being here and speaking with your audience, and of course with you. And yeah, I totally look forward to another juicy conversation.
Awesome. All right. I love you and love all of you too, you woke folk. All right. Take care.